Hey, Charger History. Today's essential question is, what were some important Roman innovations? With only 34 classes left until you crush the eye leap, let's see what you can remember from Unit 2. So on Friday, we talked about the Roman government. Which of the following features from the Roman government is most similar to our government today? Great job. Make sure you raise up your hand if you had trouble with that, because that is something you'll need to know for the benchmark. And which other civilization is most similar to the Roman government? Today we'll talk about some important innovations from the Roman Republic. Some of these are inventions that we still use today. So follow along in your passage. Make sure you annotate by circling vocab words, underlining important details, and summarizing each paragraph as we go along. The ancient Romans adopted good ideas that they saw in the civilizations they conquered. If other people were doing something better than the Romans, well, the Romans adapted their own way to use the better idea. For example, the Romans heard the myths of the Greek gods. They loved the stories so much that they took these stories and changed the names of the gods and made them into Roman gods. The Romans had their own religious beliefs. They just added the Greek gods to them. But they didn't copy the Greek gods exactly. They added Roman personalities to the Greek gods and insisted that they had always been Roman gods. The Romans also built temples to these gods that ended up looking very similar to Greek temples. Speaking of architecture, Roman architecture is known for its use of the arch. Check out this building, the Colosseum. The Colosseum was the home of many gladiator fights, which were basically like the pro wrestling matches of today. But the outer walls of the Colosseum were made entirely of arches. Check out these other Roman arches. The Romans used arches because they were strong and would last forever. But the Romans did not invent the arch. The earliest use of arches dates back to Mesopotamia. The Romans got the idea for using arches in their architecture from the Etruscans. The Romans never gave any other civilization credit for inventions. According to the ancient Romans, everything was invented in Rome. There were many occurrences like that. The Romans were very good at copying other people's ideas. However, they did invent some things themselves. Here we go. There's an old expression, all roads lead to Rome. In ancient Rome, Rome was the heart of the empire. Each time a new city was conquered, a road was built from that city back to Rome. Roads were built in straight lines. Many of the roads had gutters. Along the side of the road, the Romans built road signs called milestones. Milestones did not give any information about the other towns in the area. Milestones only told how far it was back to Rome. A good road system also made it easier for the emperors to control their empire, as messages and orders could be sent quickly. See how all of these roads going like hundreds of miles away are all connected back to the capital city of Rome. Roads were built so well that some Roman roads are still in use today. One of the most impressive feats of Roman engineering were the aqueducts. For drinking, irrigation, and yes, even for their public baths, the Romans needed fresh water. As they grew, the Roman cities became too big to get water from wells or even nearby lakes or streams, so the Romans built a way to get water to flow from large lakes and rivers to their cities. These were the Roman aqueducts. Generally, the Romans built their aqueducts and laid the pipe to carry water underground, just like we do today. But sometimes to keep the pipe level, with just a small drop down to keep the water flowing, they had to build above ground. And see how they used arches? When they had to cross a valley, like this one in the picture, they built on arches to carry the pipe. The whole project was massive. The Romans had to mine the lead to make the pipes from Spain, build roads to transport the lead, make the pipes, transport the pipes, build the trench or arches to put the pipe in, and do the surveying to make sure the pipe was positioned with just the right amount of angle or drop to keep the water flowing at a usable and practical amount. So everybody could have water for farming and drinking and everything they needed. The ancient Romans spoke a language called Latin. Latin influenced many European languages. And the languages that came from Latin are called the Romance languages. Isn't that romantic? Actually, they're not called Romance languages because they're romantic. They're called Romance languages because they originally came from Rome. So Latin was the name of the language the Romans spoke, but the languages that came from Latin that we still speak today are French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and these languages even influenced English. So remember that the Romance languages from Rome are the languages that came from Latin. All right, now you know about some important innovations that Romans invented, like Latin and aqueducts, but you also know some innovations that they stole and used for themselves, like the arches and the Roman gods. Good luck today. Please X out of this and go back to your playlist for practice.